these issues are working.
That concludes all questions. Honourable point of order, Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, I raise a point of order under Standing Order 407B. Sir, I wrote to you on the 18th of March in respect, without going into the matter, of a complaint in respect of the acting CEO of Solid Energy allegedly misleading the committee. It was an issue of contempt. You replied to me on the 28th of March determining that there was no matter, to quote you, of privilege involved. However, you gave no reasons to justify your decision, and also, sir, you did not address the second complaint of contempt in respect of another member of that company. My question, sir, is this in respect of standing orders. Could you advise if you will be providing reasons for your decision in respect of these matters, as you yourself have done in other privileges complaints in respect of other members of Parliament, including, I'm told, Mr Twyford, who raised a complaint of privilege on another member of the House with you recently, and you replied and gave detailed reasons as to why that complaint was not upheld?
On some occasions, I will be writing a very fulsome letter and explaining why I do not believe there's been a breach of privilege. On other occasions, I will be less fulsome with my explanation. Point of order, Honourable Trevor Miller.
Mr Speaker, I just hope there's one other option, that at some stage you might refer one of the letters to the Privileges Committee.
Well, and I've no doubt that at some stage something will go to the Privileges Committee, but at this stage I haven't seen something that I think was worthy of sending to the Privileges Committee.
Point of order, sir.
Further point of order? Honourable
Indeed, sir. Could I, based on,
Cosgrove.
Thank you. Based on your reply, you, I think, used the words that in some cases you provide detailed explanations, in others you provide less so. In the case that I've, or less fulsome, sir, in the case that I have put before you, you provide no reasons at all, zero, fulsome or otherwise, and I'm just wondering if you yourself believe it should be consistent to provide some reasons, or am I a special case?
No. No. Order. Order. The member has raised a reasonable point of order. I have adopted the practice of the previous Speaker, the Honourable Dr Lockwood Smith, who had an attitude that when something was taken to the media at the same time that it went to the Speaker, he was inclined to give a less fulsome explanation. I intend to adopt the same practice. Point of order, Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Again, I have the letter and I'm going to seek to table it, sir, but I just don't quite understand less fulsome. In this case, there is not one reason at all that you have given to turn it down, and I'm just inquiring as to why you are not being so consistent with other members of the Parliament.
As I've just said to the member, I've adopted a practice adopted by the previous Speaker, the Honourable Dr Lockwood Smith, and it is consistent with his practice as well, that where letters of complaint of privilege come to me at the same time as they involve the media, I will still make a decision on the value of it going to the Privileges Committee, but I will be less inclined to enter into a fulsome debate in my explanation.
Order.
Honourable David Parker.
Sir, I have a concern that the question that's asked for of you as Speaker is not whether there is a breach of privilege, but whether there is a reasonable question of whether there has been a breach of privilege. And I have the impression, and I'd like to be assured that I'm wrong in this, that you're looking at whether you should be determining whether there's a breach of privilege rather than ascertaining whether there is a question of a breach of privilege, because this case here seems surprising.
No, well, and I appreciate the point the member's making. No, I am certainly not in a position where I determine whether there has been a breach of privilege. My duty as Speaker is to determine whether the matter is serious enough, whether an attempt has been made to deliberately mislead the House or a select committee, and whether any attempt has been made to correct an incorrect answer. When I take all those matters into account, that will be important to determine whether any case goes to a Privileges Committee. Honourable David Parker.
Well, if this case has been determined on the basis that it wasn't serious rather than it being a contempt, it's very difficult for the opposition to know, because from the complaint that the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove put in, it seemed pretty clear that there was a contempt. Are we to take it that you thought that it was a contempt but that it wasn't serious enough to go to the Privileges Committee?
No, as I've just mentioned to the member, there were two important aspects to the decision. One was whether the attempt was deliberate and whether any attempt was made relatively quickly to correct the answer. Honourable Trevor Miller.
Further point of order, Mr Speaker. I think in order to invite you to make a correction to a statement that you have made earlier, the word fulsome, sir, means excessive, insincere, offensive or distasteful. I wouldn't describe your reply to Mr Twyford in that manner.
I thank the member for his assistance. Is there a further point on this? Well, I think the matter has been determined.
It is a fresh point of order, sir.
Fresh point of order, Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Would you be able to advise if you will be writing to me dealing with the second issue of contempt, which was contained in the same letter?
I have already responded to the member to the extent of the complaint put before me. Point of order, Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, and I'm not challenging your ruling, but I do have in front of me what I wrote. And there were two issues. One was in relation to Mr Dyack, as you have responded to directly. The second was in relation to information from other members of the executive of Solid Energy that was not provided to the committee, but some days later, after the meeting, was provided to third parties and media. You have addressed the issue specifically. You have addressed... Can I be heard and said?
Order.
You've addressed the first point specifically, sir, and I'm not going to further challenge that in relation to Mr Dyack. You have not in any way in the letter dealt with the second issue I wrote to you about.
Okay, and I don't have the letter of the original letter in front of me at the moment. The member is welcome to come and discuss that matter with me, and I will have a further look at it.
Point of order, sir.
No, we're getting to the stage now when you are clearly relitigating rulings that I've made. I invite the member to come with his letter, and I will talk him through the issue and make sure I have adequately responded to his letter.
Point of order, sir.
If it's a fresh point of order, I'll hear it.
I seek leave to table your letter to me of 28 March 2013.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There appears to be none. Honourable members, I have received a letter from the Honourable Leanne Dalzell seeking to debate understanding